Method can not only take parameters, but it can also return values, return a value. Data can be passed into a method by ways of a parameter variable, as we've seen just now. Data may also be returned from a method back to the statement that calls it. So here we have an example. Integer number equals to integer.parseInt 700. 700 string is passed into the parseInt method as a parameter. ParseInt method will convert this 700 into its corresponding integer. The int value 700 is generated by this parseInt method and returned as its return value. So this call to the method is an expression by itself. The method will return a value which forms the value of the expression. Then we will assign the value of this expression, which is 700, to a variable, which is a number. You can define a value returning method by defining the return type instead of void. The return value is returned by using this return statement. It causes the method to end execution and return the value back to the statement where it's called, or a better way of saying that is return back to the expression and make the expression the same value as the method. But this expression must be of the same data type as the return type. As we discussed before, there's the data compatibility issues that you will need to consider. If it's a double, you cannot return that as an int. When you call this method, you simply use the same way as we see many times, method name parenthesis with parameters matching variables, with variables matching parameters. And the sum method will return the value afterwards. Remember, each method can only return, each call to a method can only return one value. You cannot return multiple values in the same return statement. However, if you do need to return multiple values, you can define objects, which we will cover later. But for now, you cannot return, but at least you can only return one object. You cannot return multiple. And you can also add a return tag in the documentation comment or Java doc comment by this @return with description. This tag in the method documentation must appear after the general description. Then it can span several lines. Let's create a Java doc in here. So this is a value return method, and this method has this Java doc definition where it has the description of the method, description of 1 and 2 parameters, and description of the return. Let's generate Java doc. And we actually have chapter 5 and value return. Here I also need to config. As you can see, right now all buttons are still grayed out because I haven't set up the Java doc command because I actually installed a new version of Eclipse, and right now it's not I haven't set up this doc. Eclipse by default is not providing you with a Java doc command. You need to configure that, and I'm going to find it in my program files. And you can actually see that this comes with JDK, Java Development Kit. If you want to implement Java doc in your own environment, you need to download Java Development Kit, JDK. And here I'm going to JDK bin and find the java.exe. By default, when you install Eclipse, it is not coming with Java doc. You need to download JDK in a separate download. So let's finish. Yes. Okay, now let me, I think where is the index file? I believe it's somewhere here. Let me open up. Oops, looks like. Here we have an index file, index.html, which will give us the documentation for this file. Now, for this class. Now, you may wonder why we keep on emphasizing this, because if you start creating your own documentation, start creating your own Java document program, eventually you will want someone else to use it. And similarly, when you create your program, you will need to use someone else's program or library. In that case, you need to go to Java documentation to understand what each class is about and what each method is about. Here you will see a list of classes in this documentation. We only create the documentation for one class, so there's only one. And once you click on the class, you will see the constructor name. You will see all the methods, a list of all methods. And down here, you will see the method detail, main method, and sum. If you want to use someone else's method, then you need to look here at the description and make an understanding of what this method is about and what the parameters is about and what it returns. These are the essential things you will need to know when you use someone else's library. And similarly, when you write your own program, if you want to sell your program so that people can use it, would like to use it, you have to prepare your documentation as well so that people will be willing to use your code. So this is the importance of Java doc and why we emphasize this Java doc comment and this parameter tag and the return tag.